What's up, cloudbenders and cabbage merchants? So, you think you know Avatar: The Legend of Korra? The sequel to The Last Airbender didn't just continue the story of the Avatar. It also introduced many new fan-favorite characters, showed how the world of Avatar had changed and developed, and completely fumbled its Season 2 finale in such a massive way that it warranted an entire video breaking down just how nonsensical it is. Let's practice our analysis bending as we examine just how badly this series messed up. And of course, spoilers ahead for Legend of Korra, as well as for Last Airbender. So a quick recap of what we're talking about so we're all on the same page. First, 10,000 years ago, the evil spirit Vatu was defeated and sealed away in the Tree of Time by the very first Avatar, Wan. Wan became the Avatar by merging with Vatu's light side counterpart, Rava, which enabled him to bend all four elements. 10 millennia later, Vatu is released from his prison by the power of harmonic convergence, weakening the seal. He does battle with the current Avatar, Korra, and somehow, in spite of all logic to the contrary, is not only able to put up a fight, but actually wins. And not only that, he's also able to merge with the waterbender Unalaq, becoming the Dark Avatar. And not only that, but he then manages to beat the regular Avatar in combat despite him only being able to bend water. And not only that, but he also manages to reach into Korra's body and just yank Rava out. Cause yeah, no, that's totally a thing he should be able to do. That makes perfect sense. Now, in case any of you don't quite see why this is complete and utter nonsense, let me break it down for you. So first off, Vatu had been beaten to the very brink of death and then sealed within a magical prison. Last time I checked, magical prisons don't typically come with a staff of doctors and nurses and lots of medicine, so it's not like he would have had any way to heal or recover his strength over the 10,000 years he was trapped in there. He was completely cut off from all outside energy until harmonic convergence freed him. So when he got out, he should have been just as beaten, injured, weakened, and drained as when he went in. Imagine you were playing Pokemon and one of your Pokemon gets taken down to just 1 HP and had all of its moves exhausted. And then you put it back in its Pokeball and left it there for like 10 years. When you came back and took it out of the ball again, it's still gonna be on 1 HP and have no moves left. The same goes for Vatu. When he got out of the tree, he'd still be on the brink of death from his fight with Wan. He wouldn't have the energy to move, much less fight. But let's pretend he could have somehow healed himself. He'd still be no match for Korra. Remember, Vatu was at the strongest he'd ever been when he fought Wan, due to having spent the previous year spreading chaos and darkness, which made him stronger and Rava weaker. And Wan still beat him. Wan was the first Avatar, and thus didn't have any past lives to call on when going into the Avatar state. Korra, on the other hand, had hundreds of previous lives, adding their power to her own when entering the Avatar state. So she would be many thousands of times more powerful in that state than Wan was. And not only that, but given that Rava had been out in the world spreading light and order for the last 10,000 years, that should have weakened Vatu down to nothing all by itself. Given how much just 1 year of spreading chaos had affected the two of them, 10,000 years of spreading order should have had Vatu drop dead before that fight ever began. If Vatu was unable to beat Wan, who had the power of just one Avatar, and the weakest version of Rava of any Avatar, how on earth could he ever hope to defeat the power of hundreds of Avatars at once, and the strongest Rava had ever been? He couldn't. There's just objectively no way it would be even remotely possible. And that's not all. If we look at just how Vatu managed to merge with Unalaq and become the Dark Avatar, that's just as absurd as everything else. Korra had Vatu beat and was mere seconds away from sealing him back within the Tree of Time. When Unalaq shows up and gets a sneak attack in on her, and this attack somehow completely and utterly kicks the crap out of her, to the point she's crumpled in a heap on the ground and unable to do so much as lift a finger to stop their merger. Now, Unalaq is a master waterbender, so an attack from him is nothing to sneeze at, usually. But Korra is just as powerful, if not more powerful of a waterbender on her own, and she was even in the Avatar state when Unalaq hit her. His attack shouldn't have even phased her. She shouldn't have so much as flinched given the difference in power, and yet we're expected to believe that she got hurt so bad from that one attack that she couldn't do anything to even try to stop Unalaq and Vatu from merging. Come on. I think it's pretty clear the writers just wanted the merger to happen and didn't really care about whether or not the way they got there made any sense. And on top of all that, Rava was only able to merge with Wan because she had spent a year inhabiting his body on and off. And even with all that, it still took a decent amount of time for them to actually fuse into one being when they finally did it. And yet Vatu was able to merge with Unalaq after having just met him 30 seconds ago, and it takes them way less time to fully merge into one being than it did for Wan and Rava. But it gets even worse. Next, the two avatars fight, and despite all common sense and all the facts saying Korra should be absolutely dominating Unalaq, they're somehow evenly matched, with Unalaq actually managing to get the upper hand. This is obviously bullcrap. For one, Korra is a more powerful bender than Unalaq just on her own. Then, add in the fact that Korra can bend all 4 elements while Unalaq can only bend 1. Then, add in the fact that Korra's avatar state has the combined power of hundreds of previous avatars, while Unalaq's has none. And lastly, let's not forget that Rava has been going stronger and stronger alongside each avatar for the past 10,000 years, while Vatu hasn't gotten any stronger since being beaten by Wan, and in fact would, once again, still be on the brink of death from that previous fight. And then, as if all that wasn't ridiculous enough, Vatu just reaches out of Unalaq and just casually tears Rava out of Korra's body. What? So that's just like a thing. A thing he can do now whenever he wants, despite absolutely nothing in the entire series up to this point having even suggested that this sort of thing even might be possible. And even if it was possible to pull another spirit out of its host, let's not forget that Rava is thousands of times stronger than Vatu at this point. So even if it was possible, Rava would obviously be able to overpower Vatu in this matter with no effort at all. Or hell, for that matter, Rava could have just pulled Vatu out of Unalaq. And yet the show expects us to believe that not only does Rava not do that, but she's completely and utterly unable to even resist being pulled out of Korra? Oh yeah, no, not like they've been bonded together for 10,000 years or anything. I'm sure that's a super easy bond to sever. Yep, totally easy. Not like the bond that Vatu and Unalaq have, which is, let's see here, less than an hour old. Yep, now that's a strong, unbreakable bond if ever there was one. So, yeah. No matter how you slice it, the season finale just makes no sense. I know it's a fantasy show and anything is possible, but there are still rules for how things work within that fantasy world. There are still things that are impossible even for benders and magic spirits. So that whole season finale, it's about as insane as late series Azula. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out my video on why the ending of Death Note is a mathematical impossibility, or my video on the real Zelda timeline that Nintendo doesn't want you to know about. This has been So You Think You Know, and now you do know.